guys, it's Ariel
And Jason.
with Fix My Books, and today we are with Ashlin Hadden Insurance. Hi, Ashlin.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
So today we just want to talk about e-commerce insurance with Ashlin. As you guys know, we do a lot of bookkeeping in this space, but this is something new that we've encountered. And we just want to share with you guys what we've learned so far and what Ashlin can help you guys with. So Ashlin, if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and ask you a couple of questions if that's okay.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Awesome. Okay, so all about Ashlin. So if you could tell us, please, about yourself, your background, what does Ashlin Hadden Insurance do, and how you got into e-commerce insurance?
Yeah. So, Ashlin Hadden, I am born and raised in Indiana in the middle of the cornfields and the soybeans. So I am a Midwestern girl down to the core. I have two beautiful boys that are the light of my world. And I kind of got into insurance on a whim. I was leaving the banking industry, and one of my friends had said, "Hey, one of these large companies is hiring. You should go sell insurance." And I was like, "Absolutely not. I am not interested in being a used car salesman. Like, that's just not who I am." And she's like, "Well, if you do the interview, I get a bonus. And so could you just like go through the process for me?" So I was like, it's really good to get some experience. It was a while since I had done an interview. So I did the interview, and the gentleman who interviewed me said that this was a man's industry and that those men would outsell me every day. So I was like, absolutely not. Screw you. I'm going to take the job and I'm going to prove you wrong. So I was rookie of the year, top rep in the state, third in the entire country, did really,
Wow.
really well, enjoyed what I was doing, felt like I was really making a difference. And then like every insurance company does, you raise the rates, you raise the rates, you raise the rates, right? That's just the game of insurance. And I only had one product. So I was losing customers because I didn't have other options. So I decided to go out on my own, opened my own agency with just me and my computer in my house. And one of my clients came to me and said, "Hey, I'm selling on Amazon and I'm reading through this terms of service. And in the terms of service, it says that I need an insurance policy. Can you help me?" And I was like, I didn't even know there was third-party sellers on Amazon. I thought Amazon sold everything on Amazon.
Yeah.
So there wasn't this insurance around. And so I started working with carriers and finding carriers and creating policies and adding coverages in, and was able to get him a policy. And he's like, "Hey, I'm in this Facebook group. There's 15,000 of us who are going to need this. Can I post your information?" So then I was like, wow, there's a real need for this.
Yeah.
And then all these crazy Amazon sellers sucked me into this world. And now we've been almost 6 years living, breathing Amazon, eBay, Wayfair, Jet, all of these e-commerce platforms, insurance for them. So I kind of got sucked into insurance, and I kind of got sucked into this crazy, amazing group of people.
Oh,
Awesome.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You really, it's something you least suspect. You know, we encountered the same thing when we started this
Mm.
company. And a lot of the people that just ended up coming to us were people that needed e-commerce bookkeeping because no one could figure it out, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. They
Yeah.
feel like they're redheaded stepchildren. Like nobody wants to work with them because nobody understood them.
yeah.
Yeah. It's actually it's a very new type of thing, I would say. It's not like I don't think a lot of people had their eye on the e-commerce industry until like the pandemic really is when it exploded, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
And now it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll go on to just a little more about e-commerce insurance in general. And like we have a lot of questions for you, Ashley.
Yeah, because this is the thing, a lot of the e-commerce sellers don't really understand why it's important, but like, how is the e-commerce insurance different from regular brick and mortar insurance? Like
Yeah. So a lot of people think that just because they sit behind this computer that they're untouchable, right?
Yeah.
They think that Amazon's going to protect them or whatever. Well, they're not. They care about their bottom line and themselves. So really the big thing with e-commerce insurance is what we're doing is we're protecting what you do or say as a business and what your business does to harm somebody else. So let's say you're an Amazon seller and you're just a retail arbitrage or online arbitrage or wholesaling, and you're hopping on someone else's listing. So let's say what I got here. I've got this chapstick and I found this chapstick at Target on clearance, and I'm going to put it online and I'm going to hop on somebody else's listing because it's already listed. And in that listing, it says this lipstick is going to make your lips sexy and voluptuous.
Yeah.
And someone buys this lipstick and says, this is BS. No, it doesn't. And I'm going to sue you for false advertisement. Even though you don't own this product, you didn't manufacture this product, you hopped on that listing, and every single person who is on that listing now is going to be pulled into this lawsuit. Now, will you be charged with $1 million lawsuit? Probably not. Probably never would you ever have to like pay for that, because they're going to go back to the original manufacturer. But what you are going to have to pay for is to defend yourself. And a lot of people say, well, I have an LLC, so I'm fine. Okay, can you pick up your LLC and say, hey, I've been listed in a lawsuit, hire me an attorney and go defend me? Absolutely not. So you have to be able to afford an attorney at $500 to $700 an hour, or have an insurance policy. If you had an insurance policy, you got listed in that lawsuit, pick up the phone, hey, Ashlin, I'm listed in a lawsuit, help me out. And we handle it with your carrier. So that's the biggest thing. That's what you're going to do as a business, or what you're going to say as a business.
Yeah.
Then product liability is going to be what your products do to harm somebody else. So let's say the same lipstick, I put it on and now my lips break out and I have allergic reaction and I have to go to the ER. And what if I'm a model and now my modeling shoot gets canceled and I have lost wages and things like that? That's going to be your product liability, what your products do to harm someone else. So general liability and product liability are really the two biggest things that you're going to need when you're selling on the e-com space.
Okay.
Okay.
And if someone was to get pulled into a lawsuit, just like as you described, because they're reselling a product along with everyone else, what would, this kind of plays into question two, why would someone need that insurance? Or why would someone want that insurance? But how much are they looking at in terms of fees and charges from lawyers just from that alone?
So most of the policy claims that we have gone through are ending up, if you're an RA, OA, or wholesale seller, are ending up in the $45,000 to $50,000 a year. I'm sorry, $40,000 to $50,000 per claim.
Wow.
Again, attorneys aren't cheap. They're super expensive. And there's a lot of unnecessary documentation that they ask for that just ranks up the hours. So going through and looking for all of your sales, all of the documents, getting a hold of Amazon, like it just takes forever. So you're looking $40,000-ish a year for the claim, just to get out of a claim. Not to mention, like, if this was your brand and you private labeled this, you could be looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars. We had a claim settled over $1 million for one of our clients who, I don't know if you've seen them. You like put them over the door and they have like resistance bands. And you kind of like, those things. Somebody installed it incorrectly, and it snapped and broke off and hit this guy in the eye, and they settled over $1 million. So it really depends. Fortunately, this person did have insurance with us, so we were able to settle that claim and get it handled, but it would have put her in bankruptcy if she didn't have that claim, or if she didn't have that policy.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So that plays into 3. Why do I need insurance if I have a corporate
100%.
LLC? Well, it's just not going
Yeah.
to protect you.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. So are there any e-commerce platforms that absolutely require insurance?
Yeah, so right now, Amazon.com is really cracking down on insurance. They require it at $10,000 in a consecutive month. So if you're starting to sell over that $10,000 mark on the .com, they're going to request it. It seems to be they give you like a warning, and then within 30 days, if you haven't provided that certificate of insurance, that's when they start threatening the suspension. Amazon.ca also is in the requirements that you have insurance, but they're not policing it as much yet as the .com.
Yeah.
So it's coming. .ca
Yeah.
is going to definitely move to the same situation as .com. It's just taking a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
And then like Walmart, and if you're moving to like Petco and Chewy and places like that, all require insurance also.
Okay. So I guess you answered this already. Does Amazon require insurance? So yes, they do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. Are all Amazon sellers required to have insurance, or is it only for private label? Do resellers need insurance as well?
Absolutely. So once you hit that $10,000 mark, it doesn't matter if you're a reseller or if you're private labeling or white labeling or bundling, doesn't matter. Everybody's got to. And even when you sign the terms of service, in the terms of service, it says you have insurance and will continue to keep insurance, but they're not policing it until that $10,000 mark. So even if you're not at that $10,000 mark, I highly, highly recommend that you still get it. We had a client who, it was their first couple of months that they were selling, and somebody bought something off of his store, shipped it USPS, and it was fulfilled by Amazon. And the guy who bought it tripped over the box and sued Amazon, sued USPS, and sued our client. So our client didn't do anything except make a listing, and it was fulfilled by Amazon and shipped by USPS, and he still was pulled into that lawsuit, and it was over $30,000 to get him out of that lawsuit. So he was a new seller. He hadn't made $10,000 yet. He just was in one of these communities that said, hey, you should do this. If you want to be a business, act like a business. And he got the policy, and within 2 months, he had to file a claim.
Wow. Yeah.
So
you can be
don't
sued for
wait
pretty much
to
anything.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything you're going to get sued.
Okay.
Anything.
Would you say that there are certain products maybe that are more high risk of being, sued, like things you put on your skin, or maybe like baby products or things like that?
So I have a top 5 that I don't like, insurance carriers don't like, but we still do, of course. But anything that goes on the body, so that's your makeups, that's your lotions, that's your topicals, in your body, food, snacks, drinks, vitamins, supplements, for a pet, for a child, and any type of outdoor equipment, including like weights and things like that. So on the body, in the body, for a pet, for a child, and then outdoor equipment, like physical equipment. That includes like pools and kayaks and life vests and
Wow, so quite broad.
Yeah.
right, yes.
Would outdoor equipment include like lawnmowers, stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So again, this might be, rhetorical, but what if I sell harmless products like, towels? Like, who gets sued over things like that? Would I still need insurance?
Yeah, the same guy who tripped over the box.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter what you sell. You could be pulled into a lawsuit for selling a Q-tip. I mean, who knows?
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people are probably rethinking their Amazon business right about now.
Well, I think the big thing with this is also when people decide to sue, they think they're suing Amazon. They think they're selling, or they're suing Wayfair. They think they're selling Walmart.com. They don't realize that there's actual people behind these stores. They don't realize that there's mom and pops. There's There's single moms struggling to try to make ends meet. They don't have a face with it because all they're doing is going online. So we
Yeah.
see more claims with online sellers because there's not that physical connection. If you were to have a mom and pop coffee shop and you walked in and you slipped and fell and you saw old man Bob sitting behind the store, you might think twice about suing old man Bob because it's a local store and you know the owners.
Yeah.
Online resale, you don't know who's behind it, so they're more likely to file those claims.
Mhm.
Okay, so in terms of the insurance, what are the minimum requirements for someone that's, just entering this space?
Yeah, so minimum requirements is going to be the $1 million general liability and $1 million product liability. That's the base that we would ever offer somebody. And
Is
then you
that
can move
required
up
by
from there.
Amazon or
That's
just
the
like
Amazon.
your?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's required by Amazon.
Okay. Um, do you need multiple types of insurance or just one?
Or it depends on the product.
Correct. And then what we do really good, so like I said, this is our baby. We've done this for 7 years. We have a really great intake form where we ask the questions about what you're doing. Are you importing from other countries? Are you selling on multiple platforms?
Mhm.
Do you use your personal vehicle for business use? We ask those types of questions so we can build you a policy with the right coverages. So if you're importing and exporting and selling on multiple platforms, you might need a multinational policy.
Mhm.
If you're using your vehicle for personal use, you might need a commercial auto policy.
Mhm.
If you're shipping containers overseas, you might need cargo insurance.
Mhm.
So the base that Amazon requires is just that general liability and product liability. But depending on what you're doing and how you're sourcing, you might still be open to other types of losses. So we try to build it around what you're actually doing.
Awesome. So if let's say I'm a new seller and I really don't have a clue what I need, I just know, okay, this is like what Amazon needs, but maybe that doesn't cover me. I can just go to your website, fill out a questionnaire and be like, Ashlin's gonna tell me what
Yep.
insurance I actually need.
Exactly. And if
Awesome.
you say, hey, I can't afford the cargo insurance right now, then we pull that off and just give you what you need to sell on Amazon. And then when you're ready, we can add that back on.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds cool. So, question number 7 is going to kind of feed into this. So, if I'm in Canada and I sell on Amazon.com, will I need insurance for each country?
So it's one policy. We just added an endorsement for multinational so that you would be covered in your sales for US and Canada.
Okay.
Okay, so that covers number 8 as well if they're in the US and they sell on
Yep.
Amazon.ca. All right. Yeah, because that's a big one because we have a lot of Canadians where they have a store, not just Amazon, but Shopify as well, and they're
Mhm.
dealing primarily in selling to the
Mhm.
US as opposed to selling locally.
And that brings up a good point too. So your policy, as long as you're honest with us on where you're selling,
Mhm.
you can have one policy that covers all of your stores. So if you have an Amazon, an eBay, a Shopify, and a Wayfair, let's
Mhm.
say, we can do one policy that covers all of those.
Mhm.
As long as they're set up as the same business entities. So as long
Mhm.
as you don't have entity A, entity B, and entity C, we can throw all of those in one policy. But that's why it's super important when we do that intake form, that application, that you're just completely honest with us on where you're selling and where you're sourcing from, so we can incorporate all of that into one policy for you.
Okay,
Okay.
that sounds cool. Is it harder to get insurance for, let's say, Shopify, since like you own the website yourself compared to, Amazon, you're kind of listing it on Amazon. Is there a difference with the
Nope.
process?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Okay, so what if I'm selling on Amazon FBA? Do I still need insurance? I think people think like once they ship the items to the Amazon warehouse, they're like hands off, Amazon does everything else. Is that a correct assumption?
Nope. So it's once it's in Amazon's warehouse, they're responsible for like lost and stolen items in their warehouse, but you are still responsible for the liability of that product. So let's say you have something electronic with batteries. You absolutely could still be pulled into a lawsuit if you shipped one of those items and that item started a fire in Amazon's warehouse.
Okay.
So you could be out millions of dollars if you burnt Amazon's warehouse down.
Yeah.
Or you shipped an item and it was commingled with
Yeah.
someone else's item. And that was shipped and that caused some harm to somebody. You could be pulled into that lawsuit because you're commingling with other products. So absolutely, it doesn't matter what you're selling, you can 100% still be pulled into that lawsuit.
Okay.
Wow, this is something people really have to think about before they say, "Oh, I'm just going to bundle products together," or
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
just going to ship this battery with, this product that could be flammable, etc."
It's eye-opening when you first
Yeah,
hear it.
especially when you see the cost of what
Yeah.
what it could potentially cost you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, what are the other types of insurances that Amazon sellers, the common types that they have? Just from your experience. I mean, you mentioned the
Yeah.
product liability and the requirements by Amazon, but just
The other
generally.
big ones that we see all the time is if you're hiring individuals, workers' comp insurance is important. You guys sometimes are lifting boxes, you're using box cutters, things like that. If one of your employees gets hurt, they could sue you and you would be responsible for that. We had a claim once for, she was just like a receptionist, like a desk job. So he's like, I really don't need insurance. She's not lifting boxes. She's not cutting things. She's super low risk. And one day she had stood up and hit her head on a sconce on the back of the wall and is claiming permanent brain damage. So she's asking for a couple
Wow.
$1 million
Yeah.
because she hit her head on the wall. So again, I hate to sound so doom and gloom, but anything could happen. And
Yeah.
the policy would have been like $600 to cover that woman for workers' comp. And he's just like, I'm fine. So you kind of have to like weigh your options. Is a couple $100 policy worth having peace of mind of knowing you're covered if something happens? Like, would you drive
Yeah.
around without car insurance?
Yeah,
No.
exactly. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So do you have any additional tips for any Amazon sellers, Shopify sellers, that kind of thing that are starting out and they don't know, what to do?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is act like a business. Act like a real business. If you were a brick and mortar, there's no way you would go without insurance. So if you want to be a business, act like a business. Ask questions. I have 16 women here that are more than happy to help. If you're outsourcing and you're like, hey, Ashlyn, what do you think about this fidget spinner with knives on the end of it? Send it over to me. I'll say, absolutely not. Stay away. Or go for it if you've got $7,000 you want to spend on insurance.
Yeah.
Our team is definitely here to help. So don't do it alone. Ask your questions, ask your experts. And just know that stuff happens and we're in a very, very litigious society. So it's just not worth the risk.
Especially now when things start slowing down and, money is tight. I
Yep.
hear that people start suing people more.
Absolutely. Our claims have gone up tremendously.
Wow.
So this is something people should really be keeping an eye out for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so this is not really targeted with Amazon, but other e-commerce platforms. So are there other e-commerce platform that require insurance like Shopify or Etsy, or is it just like Amazon is the only
So
one?
right now, Shopify and Etsy are not requiring it. Again, it is in their terms of service, but they're not policing it. Your big ones that are requiring it, if you're looking to expand to like Walmart, Bed Bath and Beyond, Chewy, those types of bigger box stores are requiring it. But right now, Shopify and Etsy are not. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That was my next question. If you're not required to have insurance, why should you get one?
All of the things we just talked about.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter what platform you're selling it on. You're gonna get pulled into that lawsuit.
Okay.
Yeah.
We even had someone who had an Etsy shop and she was just doing the like print on demand shirts.
Yeah.
And one of the shirts we think had come from China, and there was some type of bug in the shirt, and the client had gotten a really bad rash and ended up going to the hospital and suing for medical expenses for that. And
Wow.
again,
Wow.
it was print on demand. She had nothing to do with it, but she was pulled into that lawsuit.
Wow. I would
Yeah,
never
we
think
never
that.
would have thought that.
Thought that. Um, you mentioned a while ago that like right now the number of claims have gone up just because money's tighter. Are there any trends with insurance, like types of products or times of the year that you would say
Definitely get covered.
yeah, definitely get coverage, like let's say during
Q4 for
Christmas?
sure.
Okay.
Just because everybody ramps up and the sales go crazy for Q4.
Mhm.
And then, like you guys said, when times are tough, claims are higher because people look at this as a way to get rich quick.
Wow. Okay. What if I keep my inventory at home? Will my homeowner's insurance cover that?
This is something we get a lot of.
Good question, and it's one of the biggest lies in the world. Your home is not going to cover your inventory unless you can convince them that you have 2,000 toothbrushes because you like a new toothbrush every time. They're going to know it's for a business and it's not going to be covered. So an easy way to do that is you just add the inventory to that policy that we talked about with the general liability and product liability. You just add that to your policy and then it's covered. So personal is personal, business is business. If you have business inventory in your home's not going to cover it. If you have business inventory in your car insurance is not going to cover it. Home or personal is personal, business is business.
Wow.
It doesn't overlap.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
everyone with their, toothbrushes in a basement somewhere, hoping it doesn't flood, just be aware.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So this is more about, you and your company, and maybe you can give more of an idea of like how it is working with you guys. So what's the difference between working with you guys or just going direct to like a large name insurance company and be like, get me e-commerce insurance or
Yeah.
something?
So the biggest thing is, like I said, we've got 16 real women. It's not AI. We're not relying on you to put information in. A lot of these carriers out there are using AI to get the quote, issue, and bind. And it's only taking the information that you gather. And if you're not saying, hey, I have inventory in my basement, I use my car to go from Kohl's to Walmart to source, I'm sourcing from China, things like that. There's exceptions into these policies for imported products. And if you didn't read your policy, you're buying a policy that does absolutely nothing for you.
Wow.
Another thing is we're a brokerage firm, so we have tons of different carriers. So once we look through that intake form, we know which carriers is going to be best for you. If you're selling knives, we're going to place you with somebody that's different than if I'm selling mugs. Place you something different than if I'm just selling t-shirts. So we know which carriers to go to. Also, we're in the community all the time. We know what trends are. We're at conferences. I've been to close to 100 conferences. So I'm in the trenches with you guys, knowing what those trends are, so we can kind of pre-plan for those. When Amazon changed their rules about 2 years ago, I went in and changed everybody's policies to make sure that they were compliant with Amazon, sent the new certificates of insurance and emailed everybody before it was even announced online. So working with us when we're in the community, we know who you are, we know what you're doing. That really is what sets us apart from these big stores. But we have the same prices. So why not have an agent that advocates for you instead of an AI system that does it for you?
Yeah, I think what I got from what you just said is if you just, put in whatever information willy-nilly online, you could actually be paying for something that you don't actually need.
And you're
Absolutely.
wasting money.
Yeah.
Yep. There's
Okay.
one out there that's like $25 a month and we'll make you compliant. Yeah, you'll make them compliant with Amazon, but there's an exclusion for imported products. So if you're buying anything from any other country, they're not going to pay your claim. So yeah, you can be compliant, but you're still going to pay out the butt when there's a claim.
Wow. Yeah.
Like that $40,000 you mentioned earlier, just to
Exactly.
deal with the
Exactly.
lawyers.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, I think we went through this
Yeah, there's a lot
already.
of
Yeah, there's a
examples
lot
in
of
the video.
examples
Yeah.
already.
With and without insurance.
Yeah, that you gave.
Oh, can you give us actually just what's the worst case you've ever seen? Right?
The worst one I
The
had
worst
was
one.
that $1 million right now with the straps.
Oh,
really?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a big one.
It's something so minor as well. You wouldn't even think like to sue over that, you know?
Yeah.
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 We also had another one that I think was absolutely stupid. We had they're kind of like patio covers, I guess,
Mhm.
but they're usually in like squares and triangles and stuff like that. And you kind of hook them in the corners of your back patio and they provide some shade.
Mhm.
And he sold just the physical fabric part of it. Well, someone was installing it and fell off the ladder and the hook went through his hand and ended up suing our insured for the fabric.
Yeah.
So it's like, the fabric didn't hurt you. You slipped on the stairs, the ladder. Like,
Yeah.
so most of it is just absolutely ridiculous to think about.
But it's still something that you got to pay for.
Right. You've
Yeah.
got to defend yourself from it.
Yeah.
You're not going to be responsible for it, but you have to defend yourself.
This is what everyone kind of wants to know is this generally what's the price range they're looking at
Yeah.
for an e-commerce store?
And I hate to say it, but it just depends.
Yeah.
It really does depend on what you're selling, where you're sourcing from, how much you're selling. A new seller doing $10,000 a month is going to be a heck of a lot cheaper than someone who's doing, $200,000 a year. So it really does depend on those things. If you are just on the .com platform, and a new seller not doing any type of private label, maybe 700-ish a year. Once you start selling in Canada, it does increase. Canada market is super, super hard. Maybe 1,500 a year. I mean, so it really, we have clients that are 500 to we have a client that's $180,000 a year. So it really does depend on what you're selling and how you're sourcing and how much you're selling.
Well, that seems pretty reasonable, like just over $100 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any tips or tricks that you'd like to add, and how can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, I think the only trick I have is like just be honest. When you're doing the application, tell us the truth. Tell us exactly what you're selling, where you're sourcing from, because we want to make sure you have a policy that does protect you when something does happen. And contact me. The best thing to do is to go to ecom.insure. So www.ecom.insure. That's it. Nothing else after that. Just .insure. And then fill out that application. There's a couple of drop downs that say I private label or I don't private label. Make sure you click the right one. And then my amazing ladies will reach out through that. Or you can find me on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We're all over everywhere.
Well, we'll put a link down below, and then we have a discount code. We don't get any money from this. This is just a discount code for anyone that's going to be going through and following up with Ashlin from us. But we don't get any sort of
we're not allowed to do that
affiliation. Yeah.
But you guys wanted to give something back to your community, so
that's
definitely.
right. We just want people to actually have proper protection.
Have the right stuff.
Business,
Yeah. Okay, so I guess that's it. But one last question, Ashlyn.
Okay.
So what if I start with you guys and I, put in my policy, blah, blah, blah. And then, maybe 6 months down the line, I'm like, I want to try private labeling.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Can we just
Absolutely.
like add that? Okay.
Yeah. And then I would say before you go buying 100 fidget spinners with knives on the end of it, give us a call or an email and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about private labeling this. What are your thoughts? What's it going to do to my policy? Get those answers up front. Because we had somebody doing some just RAOA wholesale, and then they wanted to start selling blow up pools. private
Mhm.
label. And it's like, you're going from a $700 policy to probably a $7,000 policy.
Wow.
You
Yeah.
really need to make sure you've got a darn good ROI on those pools before you do this. Like,
Yeah.
ask those questions first, because it was too late. He had already bought them, he already put the order in, and now he's like, what are we
Yeah.
gonna do? So we're not mean, I promise. We will tell you, like, don't do it, or yeah, fine.
Yeah.
All right. So
Okay.
I think that's the key takeaway.
Yeah.
Act like a business and be honest.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
thank you
spending
for
time
spending
with us,
time with us,
Ashlyn,
Ashlyn.
and
Absolutely.
answering all our questions.
Yeah. And hopefully we
Hope I
managed to
didn't
help
scare
some
you guys
people.
too much.
No, no. Yeah, it's quite funny
Yeah.
how ridiculous some of these claims are.
100%.
Yeah. All right.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much for taking the time with us,
Thank
Ashlyn.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.